The theme of the week is receipts. You see some things happening in the news and you give your thoughts on it at the time. And then when things tend to play out, as they always do, you look back on what your thoughts were and what you said, and you pull receipts. Now, this is one of these situations. If you are in the Philadelphia area or you keep track of sports, especially with the Eagles being in the Super Bowl, Howard Eskin was a big media presence in the Philadelphia for years. And then when he left WIP, the station that he helped create, that was big news because Howard was known all across the country. A lot of people liked him. A lot of people hate him. He is very polarizing in that regard. You get people on both sides of it for valid reasons. But when this happened, this was a big deal. This was breaking news. And the first thing I said was, he'll be back. The reasons why he was let go, there were some things going on that weren't so great. And it kind of got into maybe it was a misunderstanding, but at the end of the day, you don't want to put yourself in that type of situation. So anything can get misconstrued. And he just found himself in a bad situation and he decided to move on, and that's what he did. Points came out. He was on the news explaining his side of the story of what happened. If you from the Philadelphia area, if you know, you know. If not, look it up. I'm sure it's out there. What I said when this first happened was, matter of fact, I'm going to let me say, here's what I said on the situation the day after it happened. It wouldn't be surprising if 2 weeks from now he pops up on his own podcast, since that is the way that everybody's going. At this point, it's Captain Obvious. Everybody that leaves terrestrial radio, or if you are an OG on a network or something like that, if things don't work out, you're going to have a podcast a couple weeks later. Sure enough, I called it. So just came out on Twitter today that Howard Eskin is going to have a podcast.
I'm back. I will share with you the way I've shared with the public for close to 4 decades on radio, close to 4 decades on television, and talk about my perspective. I know some of you like it, some of you don't like it, some of you don't like me, and some of you hate me, and some of you love me. But here's the one thing I know. Hopefully I've gained your respect. This is me relating to the public. As Allen Iverson once said, I'm going to keep it real for real. That's what I've always tried to do. I will start a podcast and share with you my thoughts. We will have guests at times. Anything that you want to hear me say, for you to let me know. Whether it's on social platforms, whether it's through this platform, contact on Twitter at Howard Eskin. I will be me. Honesty, whether you like it or not, is really important. Hopefully everybody out there will be a part of it.
There you have it. The Howard Eskin Show. Gonna have his podcast pretty soon. And here's the thing that people tend to forget. For whatever your likes or dislikes with Howard Eskin, he was on the radio for a long time. He was good at what he did. The reason why most people move to a podcast format is because you have no limits. There's no filter. You can take the gloves off anytime you want. If you want to curse somebody out, you can curse somebody out. Whatever you want to say, you don't have to worry about the networks or the big wigs at the company feeling a certain kind of way, because you don't have those restrictions anymore. So when somebody like that gets a platform like this, what do you think is going to happen? Now, you can say what you want to say. However, sometimes there can still be consequences and repercussions, because people will come at you and stuff like that. And you still have to get sponsors and stuff like that, depending on how you want to do it. And I'm sure he's going to get sponsors and make a good amount of cash and all of that type of stuff. But now you got Howard Eskin unfiltered, and whatever he would be held back because of sponsors, because of the money he would make, you always have the option to cut that off. You don't have to have sponsors. You could just go as it is and build up he gonna have a following. Day one, he is going to have a huge following. He's going to be one of those guys that gets up, very similar to what Shannon Sharp did. Because there's just as many people that don't like Shannon Sharp. But when he started his podcast, when Stephen A. Smith started his podcast, Marcellus Wiley started his podcast, well over 100,000 in less than a year. Hell, it took me 2 years to get to 6,000. So somebody as popular as Howard Eskin has a head start because everybody's going to jump on board day one just to see what he has to say, especially when you have no restraints.